This is lesson 6.3, independent practice. This is page 165. Please read along with me and to attempt as much of this as you can. Watch the video for hints and to check your answers. And if you have questions, of course, raise your hand. Number 6 reads, Gina's art teacher mixes 9 pints of yellow paint with 6 pints of blue paint to create green paint. Gina mixes 4 pints of yellow paint with 3 pints of blue paint. Did Gina use the same ratio of yellow paint to blue paint instructed by her teacher? And explain. So what I can do here is I can actually show my work on these lines just like you could do in your book. We could also use a whiteboard, but this will be fine. I've got enough room here. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to write these ratios out as a fraction to examine the numbers. I think you'll see actually whether or not they're equivalent if you set this up, but right now it's just kind of a jumbled mess. So notice a couple things. She's mixing yellows to blues. And so what I do is I set up a fraction, and off to the side I label yellow and blue just to make sure I don't get things mixed up and backwards. So the art teacher mixed 9 yellows and 6 blues. 9 yellows, 6 blues. And what we're trying to find out is, did Gina use an equivalent, the same ratio? So what I do is I write equals, and then I write question mark, because I don't know if they're equivalent. That's the point I'm trying to find out. Now I'm going to go find Gina's mix. Gina mixed 4 yellows to 3 blues. So now the question is, are they equivalent? And the way I like to think about equivalent is kind of like a fraction. Do you do the same thing to the numerator as you do to the denominator? For example, do you notice that if you take Gina's mix right here, and if you double it, which is times 2, you would get from 3 pints of blue to 6 pints of blue. So based on the bottom numbers there, it looks like, yeah, the answer is going to be yes. So then go check the first term, and do you double that? Uh-oh, that's a problem, because you didn't get 8. 4 times 2 is equal to 8, but Gina's teacher used 9. So what does that tell you about if their ratios are equal? It means that they're not equal. In order for these ratios to be equal, you would have to do the same thing to the first term as you do the second term. So I'm going to go ahead and put some words in here. They are not equivalent because, and what I'm going to do now is explain the math. They are not equivalent because 3 times 2 is equal to 6, but 4 times 2 is not equal to 9. That's a good enough. It's not the most perfect explanation, but it's good enough. It explains, I think in your words, exactly what's happening there. Okay, let's move on. All right, number 7. I'm going to get a whiteboard for this one. Number 7 and maybe 8 we'll do on the whiteboard. Number 7 reads, the Suarez family paid $15.75 for 3 movie tickets. How much would they have paid for 12 tickets? Once again, almost always, if we set this up, you'll understand the strategy. You may not recognize the strategy yet, but let me set it up. I'm just going to write it out like as a fraction, and I bet you'll recognize the strategy. So they paid $15.75 for 3 tickets. And so I just take this and put it as a fraction over this. And then what are we trying to figure out is how much they would pay for 12 tickets. So I'm going to put an equal sign here, and I'm going to put 12 tickets right here. And do you recognize the strategy yet? I hope you do. Now if you're thinking, well, I don't know this amount of money right here and we need to figure that out, and I agree with that, but the strategy is this. How do you get from 3 tickets to 12 tickets? You multiply by 4. That's just math facts. So if you can multiply the number of tickets by 4, you would then multiply the cost by 4. That's a very simple strategy. So now all you have to do is very carefully multiply 1575 by 4. 4 times 5 is 20. 4 times 2 is 28. Plus 2 is 30. 4 times 5 is 20. Plus 3 is 23. And 4 times 1 is 4. Plus 2 is 6. 1, 2, 1, 2. It's $63. Perfect. Let's move on. Go ahead and Make some room on my whiteboard. Number 8. A grocery store sells snacks by weight. A 6-ounce bag of mixed nuts costs $3.60. Predict the cost of a 2-ounce bag. Could you do the same strategy here as you did for number 7? You absolutely can. We're going to go ahead and talk about this right here. A 6-ounce bag is $3.60. I'm going to put $3.60 over 6 ounces. And then I'm going to predict the cost of a 2-ounce bag. I'm going to go like this. I'm going to put 2 ounces as my second term. I'm going to put a question mark here. And I'm going to ask myself, how do I get from 6 ounces to 2 ounces? I divide by 3. So if you divide that by 3, you're going to divide this by 3. 360 divided by 3. 3 goes into 3 once. 3 goes into 6 twice. 3 goes into 0 0 times. My decimal comes straight up. It says predict the cost. Cost means dollar sign. It's $1.20. All right, let's move on. Probably just number 9 on this whiteboard. Number 9 reads, the Martin family's truck gets an average of 25 miles per gallon. Predict how many miles they can drive using 7 gallons. You could do the same thing on this one. It doesn't seem like you can, but you can. This right here is 2 numbers. 25 miles per gallon looks like this. 25 miles per 1 gallon. I know it doesn't look like there's a 1 there, but there is. Per 1 gallon. Now what we need to figure out is how many miles they can drive using 7 gallons. So that means, I don't know how many miles it is, but I know I'm going 7 gallons. And now you might be able to see the math problem. The math problem is, to get from 1 gallon to 7 gallons, you multiply by 7. So to get the number of miles, you multiply by 7. 25 times 7 is 175 miles. Cool. Moving on, let's check out number 10. Number 10 is a little bit tricky, but I'll do my best to help you. I think we're going to have to ditch the whiteboard here. I think we'll be okay though. Number 10, multi-step. The table shows 2 cell phone plans that offer free minutes for each given number of paid minutes used. That makes sense. You pay for some minutes and then you get some free minutes. Pablo has plan A and Sam has plan B. So I'm going to go ahead and take some notes here. We're talking about Pablo has plan A, Sam has plan B. It's important to pay attention to that. We could even do that right here. Pablo is plan A and Sam is plan B. And question A says, what is Pablo's ratio of free to paid minutes? So it's going to be free to paid. So we're going to go to plan A because that's Pablo. And the free minutes are 2 and the paid minutes are 10. So what a lot of kids want to do is write 2 to 10. And that's kind of okay. But what we'd rather do than write 2 to 10 is we'd rather simplify it to 2 and 10. If it were written as a fraction over here, we'd know simplifies by a factor of 2. So we divide those by 2. So we do the same thing here. 2 divided by 2 is 1. And 10 divided by 2 is 5. So the better answer here is 1 to 5. Question B. What is Sam's ratio of free to paid minutes? So Sam is on plan B. And the free minutes are 8 and the paid minutes are 25. So we're going to write 8 to 25. And we're going to ask ourselves if that simplifies. If it were a fraction, would it simplify? And it doesn't, because 8 and 25 don't share a factor. The factors of 8 are 1, 2, 4, and 8. The factors of 25 are 1, 5, 25. They don't share a factor other than 1. So the answer doesn't simplify. So it's nice that we got to see here on A one that does simplify and on B one that doesn't simplify. Question C reads, does Pablo's cell phone plan offer the same ratio of free to paid minutes as Sam's? And explain. So I'm going to go up to Pablo's. And Pablo's was 2 to 10, which simplifies to 1 to 5. And it honestly wouldn't matter. It might even be easier to write 2 to 10. It doesn't matter though. Well, I guess we'll just go 1 to 5. What we're going to do here is we're going to write a fraction, just like we did earlier. We're going to put the free to paid. So we're going to write free over paid. And for Pablo, the ratio was 1 to 5. So I'm going to write it like this. And we're going to write equal sign question mark. And we're going to write 8 to 25. And are those things equal? How do I get from 1 to 8? I multiply by 8. How do I get from 5 to 25? I multiply by 5. That's not equivalent because I didn't do the same thing to the first term as I did to the second term. To make these equivalent, I would either need to multiply both terms by 8, and then I'd get 8 over 40, or I'd need to multiply both terms by 5, and I would get 5 over 25. But I don't get the same term each time. So it says, does Pablo's cell phone plan offer the same ratio of free to paid minutes as Sam's? No. Because I guess we could do 1 times 8 is equal to 8, but 5 times 8 is not equal to 25. These written explanations are not the easiest things to do, and I'm sorry I can't be more clear about that. But I think you probably can understand the math because I explained that pretty clearly. All right, let's go check out number 11. And that's going to be it for this lesson. We're skipping page 166 altogether. Let's go do number 11, and then we'll be done. Good job. Number 11 reads, let me get a whiteboard real quick. Number 11 reads, a store has apples on sale for $3 for 2 pounds. I could take notes on that right now. $3, 2 pounds. How many pounds of apples can you buy for $9? Well, that's not too hard. To get from $3 to, and I'm going to go ahead and not answer this second question yet. I'm just going to answer this first question. I'll read the second question in a minute. It says, how many pounds of apples can you get for $9? What I'm going to do here is I'm going to write $9. And hopefully you recognize that you can just triple that. If you multiply 3 times 3, you get 9. What you do to one term, you have to do to the second term. So I'm going to multiply this by 3, and what would I get? 6 pounds. So the first question, the answer is 6 pounds. And I'm going to put a semicolon because there's a second question. If an apple is approximately 5 ounces, how many apples can you buy for $9? So what we're saying here is we know how many pounds we can get 6 pounds. This question doesn't ask how many pounds, it says how many apples. So check this out. We got 6 pounds of apples. We know that. It says right here, how many apples can you buy for $9? For $9, we get 6 pounds of apples. So the question is, how many ounces is that? Because this is converting between pounds and ounces. So what we're going to do here is we're going to say, how many ounces is 6 pounds? And so the first thing I'm going to do is say how many ounces is 1 pound. 1 pound is 16 ounces. So how much is 6 pounds? Well, you're going to multiply by 6. If you do 1 times 6, you get 6. So you have to do 16 times 6. So what's 16 times 6? Well, you can use your multiplication chart. 16 times 6 is 96. And I am not so good at my 16, so I'm going to check that. 16 times 6 is 96. So we get 96 ounces. Now that's not our answer because it doesn't say how many ounces is 6 pounds. It says how many apples can you get. So we have one more problem to do. We've got 96 ounces here. And this problem right here that I read a little bit too fast, it says if an apple is approximately 5 ounces. So how many apples is 96 ounces if each one is 5 ounces? This is division. And 5 goes into 96 19 times with 1 left over. And so that's going to be, and we're going to have to round that, that's going to be about 19 apples. And it says explain your reasoning. And my reasoning is I showed my work. That's going to be good enough. If you show work, you have room on this page. You have lots of lines. If you show some work, then that counts as an answer. The two answers are 6 pounds and about 19 apples. All right, good job. You are done with page 165.